I'll make some shots at the basket. Keep going. Okay, do a layup.
Ready?
Dribble. Dribble.
Hi, Daddy. Wait.
There are many natural food stores, but there's only one Health Nut. So come to Mid-Michigan's largest natural food store.
Weather throughout the evening hours on CNN. It's 10:59 in the east.
Which is more extreme?
Examiner told a crowded courtroom that there are no real offers for Eastern yet. So he's recommending the bankruptcy judge go ahead with the sale of the Eastern shuttle. Examiner David Shapiro says Eastern cannot be bought with mirrors. There must be cash on the table, a minimum of $100 million of cash at risk. The bid by William Howard, former head of Piedmont with Prudential Beige, does not now involve cash, but the bid is expected to be amended soon. Chicago commodities trader Joe Ritchie's bid does not include cash either. So Judge Lifland has decided to consider the sale of the Eastern shuttle at a hearing next Monday. Last October, Eastern and Donald Trump reached agreement to sell the shuttle for $365 million. After Eastern filed for bankruptcy, it threw in 4 more planes. But that Trump deal expires at the end of next week.
I'm not going to be raising my offer, and my offer is a high offer. I mean, when I heard that somebody was bidding $90 million or so more than me, and my offer was a high offer to start off with, I was rather surprised. But again, I mean, I'll take my $8 million and go home and on to the next one.
In the meantime, America West Airlines has offered $751 million for the shuttle and 10 Boeing 757 planes. And though financing and approvals are not yet completed, the creditors say they think the America West deal is worth more.
On its face, it is in the range of $50 to $90 million higher than the Trump bid.
The unions oppose the shuttle sale, still hoping that someone will come along to buy the entire airline.
We think the shuttle is an integral part of the airline and should go along with it.
Eastern made it clear in court that it doesn't want to lose the Trump bid for the shuttle.
This month's decline, and overall the region remains weak. April's negative report is a continuation in what economists say looks like a housing recession.
The housing starts decline are very much in line with our expectations for the year. We've actually seen housing starts decline in the last 3 years. about 10% and about 8%. We expect to see them decline about 8% again this year.
Interest rates were to blame for the most recent drop in housing construction. The rate on a fixed-rate 30-year mortgage hit 11.58% in April, the highest rate in 3 years. Adjustable-rate mortgages averaged 10.14%. Despite recent signs the economy is cooling off, mortgage interest rates have remained high. A 30-year fixed-rate mortgage now standing at 11.30%. ARMs now at 9.7%. But at this construction site in Lombard, Illinois, there's still optimism. The 28 luxury homes have already sold out. The builder saying high interest rates haven't stifled home buyers moving up.
When you're in a second and third and fourth move-up market, people have got equity that they're working with, and they've been in the market longer, and so they understand that there are going to be fluctuations and that it's not necessarily something that should mean that they can't afford a home or they should not buy.
Elliott says she expects to break even with last year as long as the economy doesn't slip into recession. Housing has been hardest hit by the rise in interest rates, and economists say it isn't over yet. Housing expected to drop even more through the summer. Cynthia Rogers, CNN Business News in Lombard, Illinois.
And the housing industry also being hit hard by the S&L.
Cash crunch when interest rates rose sharply. Today, S&Ls can limit withdrawals by raising interest on deposits or raise cash by selling loans into the secondary market. The credit for the supply of credit goes to the same culprit that's been blamed for some of the S&L industry's problems. Deregulation. Deborah Marchini, CNN Business News, Washington.
Coming up next, the stock market, well, it breaks a winning streak. Stay with us. We'll have the sad news for you next on Moneyline.
Luxury cars cost serious money, so if you're seriously looking, visit your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer first. As a line, the automobiles of Mercedes-Benz retained more of their original value than any other line sold in America during the past 10 years. 10 years. You see, it's not what a car costs, but what it's worth. Take a look at one now.
What can you expect from a company named Bell South? Exactly what you'd expect from one of the world's leading communications companies. The products and services your business needs wherever you do business, from advanced telecommunications and sophisticated information systems to state-of-the-art mobile communications. What else would you expect? Bell South. Everything you expect from a leader.
Some things you do because you have to. And some things you do because you want to. At Omni Hotels, we're bringing have to and want to closer together than ever before. Try us next time you have to be away from home on business. Omni Hotels, where you want to be when you have to be away. Call 1-800-THE-OMNI.
On CNN, can man's best friend also be his biggest friend? He can if he's Zorba, the world's largest dog. Meet this gentle giant of the canine world tomorrow morning on CNN's Daybreak.
Cray Research's new restructuring plan not getting much support from investors. Cray shares tumbling 6 points today, closing at 49 3/4. Analysts tying the drop to Cray's announcement that it will spin off its supercomputer business. The newly divided company, seen as a less attractive takeover target. At the company's annual meeting today, Cray saying it will sell the supercomputer to customers of Control Data through a joint marketing agreement. On Wall Street today, investors cashing in after an 80-point rise in the Dow over the past 2 days. Traders reporting some nervousness ahead of 2 economic reports due out this week, the March trade deficit and April consumer price index. The blue chips today closing with a loss of almost 10.5 points. The Dow tonight at 2,453.5 0.45 on volume of 173,100,000 shares. Declining issues bidding on advancers by a margin of almost 8-7. The New York Stock Exchange Composite Index down 0.33. The S&P 500 fell 0.88. The Dow Transportation's unchanged. Utilities up 0.24. The 10 most active issues on the big board today: RJR Nabisco Preferred up 1 1/8. Occidental Petroleum up 5/8. The company said rumors of Chairman Armand Hammer's failing health were greatly exaggerated, but partly responsible for heavy trading today. Canadian Pacific down 1/4. Eastman up 1/4. General Electric down 1/2. IBM fell 1 3/8. USX moving up 1. Niagara Mohawk Power was unchanged. Exxon lost 1/8. And Blockbuster Entertainment losing 1. In over-the-counter trading, the Nasdaq Composite Index closed at 435.66, losing 0.55. Active trading, 143,456,000 shares. And on the American Exchange, that index closing at 349.92, losing 0.12 on volume of almost 12 million shares. Tonight's Moneyline market movers: Newmont Mining down 2 1/8. A court ruling ending Minorco's takeover bid for Consolidated Goldfields of Britain, which owns 49% of Newmont. Walt Disney down 1 3/8. Rupert Murdoch filing a $1.5 billion lawsuit against Disney. Longview Fiber off 2 5/8. Moneyline columnist Dan Dorfman reporting here last night that Mac Capital may have pulled out of an agreement to take over the company. J.C. Penney down 1 1/4, lower first quarter earnings. L.A. Gear up 4 5/8, expected to report record sales for the past 6 months. The Securities and Exchange Commission today filing insider trading charges against 6 people, charging them with making $800,000 in illegal profits. The SEC charges say that a worker at a prominent Wall Street law firm passed on inside information about a corporate takeover 2 years ago. The paralegal worker is a former employee of Skadden Arps, which worked on Hooker Corp's takeover of Parisian Inc. It's the 3rd insider case brought against a Skadden employee in the past 5 years. The Exxon oil spill story may not be quite as cut and dried as first thought and reported. Third mate Gregory Cousins says he was indeed in command of the tanker when the accident occurred, not the captain of the vessel, Joseph Hazelwood. And he says there is no evidence that Hazelwood was drunk. In testimony before the National Transportation Safety Board, Cousins says he was commanding the ship when it ran aground and that the captain indeed was in his cabin. Hazelwood's attorney says the captain left the helm, assured that the situation was under control.
Captain Hazelwood had the right to leave the bridge. In fact, he did leave the bridge for a short period of time, left the vessel in command of third mate Cousins, who holds a federal second mate's license, who is well qualified.
The hearings will go on, but Hazelwood has so far refused to testify. Well, in Japan, another official linked to the recruit stock scandal resigned today. Katsuya Akita, a member of parliament, gave up his post today, citing personal reasons. His brother reportedly made a hefty profit by buying recruit shares before public trading began. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Nakasone, former Prime Minister Nakasone, agreeing to testify about his links to the recruit scandal. In other news, the trade imbalance between Japan and the United States worsening. Japan's surplus with the United States in April up more than 10% from a year ago to $4.5 billion, an increase in exports fueled by a major advance in computer chip sales. Separately, a senior Japanese trade official says Japan is making every effort to avoid a trade war. The United States ordered trade sanctions against Japan recently for failing to open telecommunications markets to U.S. manufacturers. And now let's take a look at how the Asian markets are doing on Wednesday morning.
CNN's Asian Business Report is brought to you by Northwest Airlines, helping people do business in Asia for over 40 years.
To understand Asia, you have to understand its customs, its mystery, its people. You have to know what makes a good impression and what offends. For over 40 years, we've been learning about Asia. So in addition to more flights to Asia than any other U.S. airline, with service from over 200 U.S. cities, and World Perks, the best frequent flyer program in the sky, we can give you something no other U.S. airline can. The knowledge, information, and insight that comes after 40 years of helping people do business in Asia.
of the wonderful sights and sounds of summer. The birds in the trees, the crickets in the fields, the frogs in the pond, and the spiders on the road. The 2-liter 5-speed Alfa Romeo Spider. It's summer on wheels.
The latest Moneyline Fortune 500 poll is out. It shows chief executives at the largest companies are divided about how they're paid. Slightly more than half of the 214 chief executive officers who responded say their pay is linked to performance just about as much as it should be. Just a little under half say that isn't the case. Chief executives were even more closely divided over another issue. That issue, whether annual bonuses orient chief executive officers to short-term performance. Slightly more chief executives answer yes than no to the question. Solutions to the problem drew varied responses. The most popular way to improve compensation, they say, is to tie a greater percentage to long-term performance. Almost a third say that's the way it ought to be. Well, my good colleague Myron Kandel takes a look at the way things should be quite often, and tonight he's hopping mad. Myron says Congress is giving favored treatment to certain thrift institutions in the S&L bailout plan. Myron?
Lou, you're right. It's not new that virtually every piece of spending legislation that passes Congress is dripping with fat. Fat that oozes from the pork barrel amendments that congressmen load on to benefit special interests. The savings and loan bailout bill that's moving through the House smells even worse than usual. It's loaded with garbage in the form of dozens of amendments designed to benefit specific companies or institutions. Forget that the savings and loan fiasco may prove to be the biggest taxpayer ripoff in American history, one that will saddle our children and grandchildren with hundreds of billions of dollars of more debt. And forget that it all happened right under the noses of most members of the present Congress. For congressmen who do the bidding of important constituents or big contributors, it's business as usual. Damn the public, full speed ahead. Some amendments will enable a handful of thrifts to sidestep efforts to curb the very abuses that got the industry in trouble in the first place. If ever Congress should put selfish interests aside and concentrate on what's in the national interest, this S&L bailout measure is the place to do it. Unfortunately, the leaders of Congress are still playing their same old game. It's time for a public outcry before it's too late. Lou?
Myron, is this the same Congress that you want to be in charge of telecommunications and re-regulating Ma Bell and the telephone companies?
Listen, I think Congress is an important part of our political system, but they shouldn't do the wrong things. They should do the right things. I think only public pressure will get them to do it consistently. Pork barrel has no place in the savings and loan bailout bill.
Or, for that matter, anywhere else.
Well, I'll agree with you on that, but that's a little too idealistic in this day and age.
I'll hang on to that ideal anyway. What the heck, it may work out. Myron, thanks. Well, finally this evening, smoking and drinking may be hazardous to your health, but not enough to make you miss work. A U.S. Chamber of Commerce study released today says physical fitness plays more of a role in worker absenteeism than smoking or drinking. That study says out-of-shape workers are likely to miss more days of work than smokers or drinkers. Kind of gives new meaning to the old ad about walking a mile for a camel. Smoking still isn't good for you, neither's drinking. And looking ahead to tomorrow, most economists are predicting a slight improvement in the trade deficit for the month of March. We'll have that report for you, of course, and its impact on the markets. For tonight, that's Moneyline.
More for you tomorrow on News 5 with Lorna Barrett.
And finally tonight, New York, the Big Apple. It probably needs its pooper-scooper law, what with all that concrete and all those dogs. But Bay City, pristine, spacious Bay City?
Well, yes, that's true. There's a new law there taking effect 2 weeks and 2 days from now. Jay Brando has the scoop.
Bye.
Walking through the park is a summertime pleasure we all enjoy. Even man's best friend likes a walk through the park for some fresh air and to enjoy the park's beauty. But it's the evidence left behind of the visit that's the target of Bay City's new Pooper Scooper ordinance. Mayor Tim Sullivan says he likes a clean park too, but thinks the City Commission has better things to do than worry about a pooper scooper rule.
To require the citizens of Bay City to carry around with them a pooper scooper container to clean up after the dog or cat and take that home, they can't even dispose of it in the city park, I think is going a bit much for a community this size. Of course, there is the question whether or not you could be fined per dropping. I don't know if this is a multiple violations taking place at one time or not.
Pet owners say the scooper rule is a good idea, and they're willing to accept their new responsibility.
It can be kind of messy. I do agree. That's probably why people come over here, is they don't want to have to pick it up at home.
I don't appreciate people bringing their dogs in to do their duty.
We live by the park. We've got people walking by with their dogs all the time. We keep ours restrained, and we don't want other people's in our yard.
Absolutely, I think it's fair. I think everyone should carry a pooper scooper. Keep the park clean.
Pet shop owners say they expect the pooper scooper business to pick up after June 1st when the ordinance goes into effect. The ordinance also goes on to state that if you bring a dog or a cat into any city park, you have to be able to furnish your own pooper scooper on demand of a city official or law enforcement officer. Or you'll spend 90 days in jail and pay a $500 fine. Jay Brando, News 5, Bay City.
I got to find that guy who keeps bringing his dog on Mike's lawn. We'll see you tomorrow.